go. Welcome, old family and new family. You're listening to Cypher Scholars.
Yeah.
Part education, part hip-hop, all culture. You're listening to your boy Brandon White, a.k.a. Bushido Garvey, as I'm known in many MC circles.
And you listen to your co-host, Rob Blow.
Yes. We have a packed up syllabus. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be talking about...
First on the syllabus will be the college admission scandal, aka Varsity Blues update.
Yeah. That was old news, but it's new news because there's new information that's added on a regular basis because the court situation is still popping. Go ahead.
Yep. Second on the syllabus will be the we're gonna call it the 5 years in 7 countries. 5-year plan with 7 countries involved.
In reference to what's going on with Iran, Trump, Iraq, and everything that's been going on in the Middle East, there's U.S. military precedents for this, and we just want to get a little deeper on that.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And last and least on the list will be the Vladtv situation and why he's being sued. Yes.
Vladtv is a controversial media service in the hip-hop community. Many people love it, but at the same time many people critique it, calling Vlad a culture vulture. But lo and behold, he's actually being sued right now, and that's as quiet as kept for over sexual and racist misconduct. So we're gonna hop into the syllabus. Let's go right ahead, man. Right. So Operation Varsity Blues.
Back at it, Operation Varsity Blues. You had
that's actually one of the first things you reported on.
Yeah. I think 53 people got charged in this case.
Yeah.
The scandal, you see about 30-something people. I think 20-something people either pled guilty or not guilty.
Right.
The rest of those people are having trial. They're going to go to trial.
Yes, 15 left. Because before,
something like that. Yeah.
You were right when we first reported. It was like massive, dozens and dozens and dozens of people.
And we were talking
now it's
about
up to these 15 people.
And we actually mentioned earlier last year what's going to happen with those other parents, those
non-celebrity people,
staff members in the
colleges and whatnot. Yeah.
Definitely. What's going to happen with them? What type of punishment will they receive?
Right.
What type of ramifications will they have to deal with?
Well, according to what's her? I always call her Full House. that's not
Lori
Loughlin. Yeah, Lori Loughlin.
And her husband
Massimo
Giannulli.
Yeah, Massimo Giannulli. Again, all the old school Target heads, you know what I'm saying? Like Massimo Giannulli designed that Massimo.
I forgot about that.
He designed that clothes.
Okay.
But according to those two, the government is withholding evidence that shows that these schools are as complicit as they are. You know what I'm saying?
Like that the schools knew about the scandal
the schools
as
knew,
well as
exactly.
them knowing about the scandal.
Right. The school's hands are dirty with the scandals of not having kids going through the ethical channels into their schools. You know what I'm saying? Because that's already a dicey thing anyway, where providing donations to the school, which is very, very, very traditional. But even that is already kind of like a lobbying situation for your kid. You know what I'm saying? Even though that's thoroughly legal. But then they're saying that there's other methods that they've been trying to utilize and doing that aren't so traditional, that are legally questionable, but that the college, and in this case the University of Southern California, knew very well what the deal was. You know what I'm saying? So, but they're not getting caught up in the charges still.
Oh no, not at all. Okay, all right, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're still not getting caught up. So, but they still fighting. They still fighting in court. And actually, I guess they're talking about with the 15 parents that are left.
Yeah,
they're talking about splitting up the charges. You know what I'm saying? And grouping them different.
Groups.
Yeah, exactly.
3 separate groups. They said something similar to like an M13.
Yeah, MS-13. Yeah,
MS-13. Yeah, my fault.
Yeah, man.
Situation. You know what I mean? That was kind of crazy. Right?
That was and is. And part of me is like, my own American conditioning is like, yo, like, is it this serious for them to be catching federal charges and being sequestered and grouped off like MS-13? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, that's the conditioning that I'm trained, even as an educator, where these people these white collar crime gets treated different than blue collar or below the poverty line crime. You know what I'm saying? So, but they technically shouldn't be treated different.
Specifically within the case of Lori Loughlin and Muzamo Giannulli, their defense is withholding evidence of discovery until the defense is able to get a list or exhibit list of the discovery of evidence, because there's so much phone calls and so many emails to comb through. They I guess the defense team has went through 700 or 70,000 documents.
Yeah, it's a lot, yo. A lot.
I mean, just to comb through it, but it's so much information. They're still in the process of discovery. They're trying to go. They're still combing through it, and that particular case, the Lori Loughlin and the Musimo
Target Man.
Yeah. Case is pending right now. Is at a standstill right now until that discovery is provided, or that list is provided by the prosecutors, because the prosecutors is trying to force the hand of the defense team to to turn over evidence to the prosecutors.
Got you.
Known as the discovery.
In other words, they're waiting on more evidence. Because there's so much evidence to kind of peel through and go through. In fact, it says, according to CNN, the government indicated in its filing that it continues to build its case against Singer's clients who have pleaded not guilty. So far, the government says it has seized 1.5 million pages of emails, nearly 500,000 other documents, and 4,000 intercepted or consensually recorded telephone convos and text messages. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of information to be sifting through. Again, it's a lot of information to be
countless hours. You gotta sit down countless hours listening to recordings, reading through as well.
But I guess already through this sifting of all that information, they already found something that kind of showed that there was more of a traditional channel that they could have got their daughter in, but they decided to not go through it. Right? I guess there was more of a traditional donation channel, come check my kid out kind of channel. Right? That still doesn't necessarily show how much it's based on the merit and academic skill of the daughter, but it was still more traditional of how big schools do it. And there was evidence that they had that opportunity to do it the traditional way, but they intentionally turned it down because they knew that Rick Singer, their fixer, you know what I'm saying?
With the doctor photos.
Right, the doctor photos would come through and do what he does as a 100% guarantee, supposedly, right? Allegedly.
Definitely.
So, I guess, again, the quote was the side door approach, right? The Rick Singer, their fixer, the person who doctored documents for not just these celebrities, but for a lot of other affluent, well-off, white-collar parents, doctored photos, pretend like their kids were on, major athletic teams, had people fix their SATs and SAT and ACT scores. Their fixer, this person, William Rick Singer, said there's a front door, a back door, and a side door, right, to getting into colleges. And his job was to master that side door. And there's this evidence that still is piling up about how that side door is operating, but there's already some evidence that got put out there that showed that Loughlin and her husband had an opportunity to do it more traditionally, which still isn't even totally fair either. You know what I'm saying? The amount of education is supposed to be the great equalizer, supposedly, right? Where if you work hard enough and you get the good grades and you put forth the intellectual weight, you'll be able to get in the kind of school you want and get the kind of job you want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But even when you do it legally, you make the right donation to a school, you then bump up your child's chances of getting into that school, academics or not. A sizable amount. And that first report that we did, we showed the percentage of how the likelihood increases when a child's parent donates to a school. You know what I'm saying? So.
And just one more thing. Remember Felicity Huffman, another celeb that got caught up in this situation? I don't know if you heard about this, but I think in this article they said that she serves 11 days.
Yeah, out of a 15-day sentence or something crazy like that.
And did she cough up money to any of these universities for her kids?
That's a good question. I know she coughed up money to Rick Singer. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if she.
11 days, man. Why a parent that's well off, whatever, got 6 months. I remember one of the parents, I don't know the names, actually got 6 months. Yeah, out of the situation. But Felicity Huffman gets 11 days, man. Is that fair? Is that natural justice? I guess is that whatever?
No, not at all. 11 days, like.
That's a slap.
That's and again, but first of all, the 15-day sentence was like a very much a little bit. And you know, I wish jail on nobody. Jail, I can't even imagine what it'd be like in jail for like 3 days. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that has to be hard in itself, let alone 15. But that sentence is very minimal compared to what other people were getting, like you said. And then on top of that, it was minimized to 11. You know what I'm saying? And that just shows how much the justice system kind of leans towards, those with money and those with white skin. Period. You know what I'm saying? And the Laughlin Massimo family is still fighting through it. And if they do get declared guilty, it will be interesting to see what their penalty is. You know what I'm saying? How much time they got to do or not do. Yeah. Because they could easily get probation, or community service, or whatever other time served, whatever. They could easily get a lot of other things that many other people with less money and more melanin may have to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Because you were just talking about that movie Just Mercy. You know what I'm saying? Compare that situation, you know what I'm saying, to this situation, and how the justice system has
it's definitely connected, man. I don't know. It's definitely connected for sure. That's a good observation on that.
Indeed, man. So let's hop on over to this next part of the syllabus. So,
all right. 5 years, 7 countries, man.
5 years, 7 countries. So many may be wondering what we mean by 5 years, 7 countries. Peace, Sister Rosie. Appreciate you listening. Many may wonder what we mean by that.
All right, so
but go ahead, break it down for them.
All right, so that quote, I guess, comes from a former general in the Army or Navy. I don't know exactly what it is, which branch of military it is. But this guy, his name is General Wesley Clark. He's a former general. Wesley Clark. He had a speech, I guess, back in 2007 or something like that. And maybe even prior before that, maybe. But in 2007, there's a video of him talking about how he went to the Pentagon and he visited a couple of different people. Yep. And his conversations with these people. One of these people being a well-known person. Cannot remember his name, actually. Hopefully you'll have that for me. This person says that we're going to try to do something about terrorism in the Middle East, and we're going to just attack a country, even though we have no evidence of them doing any wrong or anything like that. You know what I mean? Any of their leaders going against any of the United States officials or embassies or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, so I guess, and this was 10 days after 9/11. So General Wesley Clark visited the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11, and he talks to some top-notch officials in the Pentagon, and these officials are talking about, there was a memo that detailed this, and this memo came from the Secretary of Defense, and he was told by somebody that presented the memo to him that Libya, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, Lebanon, Iran, and Sudan will be a part of a plan to get control of the government and also to stop terrorism in those areas. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you look at a map, these areas all surround Saudi Arabia.
Right.
I mean, which the United States is actually friends with. You know what I mean? Which is kind of, that's kind of weird. I mean, it's coincidence. But in a nutshell, this memo basically details the 5 years and the seven countries that they want to take over to basically stifle terrorism and topple those governments.
Take the exact language was
please
take out 7 countries in 5 years, right? So this was as you were saying, Rob, like this was soon after 9/11, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, he had this conversation in an interview with Democracy Now!
Okay.
This is where you know he had released that information regarding how the Pentagon and the Bush administration were going to go after Iraq after 9/11, despite the government not finding any information that connected Saddam Hussein to Al Qaeda or the terrorist attacks, and that was going to be a part of the take out 7 countries in 5 years. Now, fast forward to 2020.
And we went through. From then it was George Bush. I think up
George
to
Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. Right, and we have these 7 countries, right? Iraq. We're in, been in for almost 20 years.
Definitely.
Right? Syria, we went up in there and left things in dismay. Lebanon, there's been tensions. We're in there, but it's not the same kind of takeover that Iraq and Syria happened.
Lebanon hasn't been really
Somalia,
like that.
same thing. We've been up in there. We've been trying, but like, you know, they wild boys over there. So, you know, it's a little crazy trying to have control. Sudan, we've been in there as well. There's still civil war going on in Sudan and southern Sudan versus regular Sudan, and then Iran, which there's been tension and beef throughout all the last 3 administrations, and then this most recent one with Trump assassinating Soleimani, right? Which, by the way, our own Department of Defense has acknowledged that there has been no evidence of Soleimani attacking those 4 embassies or doing anything crazy, because Trump, matter of fact, the head of the Secretary of Defense had to say like Trump went on what he believed, but there was no actual evidence that he was going to bomb the embassies, right? You know, Trump even went on to, after not having real evidence, even went on to talk about something, we're going to bomb your cultural sites, which is a war crime. And even the Secretary of Defense and the Department of Defense had to be like, you know, we got to abide by the international, you know, war laws or whatever. You know, as a statement of being like, yo, this dude is tripping. No, we ain't about to do that, right? So, you know, this is why I think people should be very careful when they talk about the power of their vote and who's right, who's wrong, who's good, who's evil. Because these 7 countries have all been combated with. Things have been instigated with. Not saying that any of these countries are innocent either. In fact, a lot of people, there's been reports about how the people of Iran are tired of the Iranian government. You know what I'm saying? Like they're in the streets protesting. You know what I'm saying? Because they see Iran's dirt in the situation too. So these countries don't have clean hands, but at the same time, the United States has done a lot of instigation and invasion of these places, and we don't even have to go past Iraq. Iraq just got done saying, get out. The Iraq parliament was like, get out. And guess what? The U.S. ain't going nowhere. The U.S. made a decision. It was like, nah, we're not. Literally, their government said, leave. And the U.S. was like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, it's a part of this plan that you brought up, you know, that Wesley Clark brought up. So this plan overarched 3 presidencies. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about, you know, who's got the good ethics as a president, Republican, Democrat, left wing, right wing, speaks good, doesn't speak good, goes by the rules, doesn't go by the rules. At the end of the day, the plan is being executed. You know what I'm saying? And to your point, I wonder why it is all around Saudi Arabia. I think that's chess. Like, they cool with Saudi Arabia right now. Even though Saudi Arabia had more to do with 9/11 than Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, any other country on this list.
So you think so?
They did. No, that's documented proof. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So they had way more to do with that. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like housing terrorists, in terms of like even funding certain operations that have been proven by terrorists. So, you know, but like, you know, Saudi Arabia got the juice over there.
Yeah,
you know
they do.
They got the
like
juice.
They're really powerful.
So,
man,
so
Saudi is not. They could. Whoa.
You know, so to take over those countries, like. To take over those countries, like you said, those are the neighboring countries, or a lot of those are neighboring countries of Saudi Arabia. You now have the juice to not have to be all up under Saudi Arabia, because even Donald Trump with all his, you know, big talk, like he has to be all up under Saudi Arabia. Every president has that since this 5-year plan started. Every president has had to have been all up under Saudi Arabia, whether it was Barack, whether it was Bush or Trump. All of them have positive things or positive interactions.
Never had no problems with
Never had no problems.
I've never even heard anything about any United States having problems with Saudi Arabia at all.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I could definitely agree with that. That's a good outlook on that, man. But please keep in mind the 5 years, 7 countries take over. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And obviously it's gone past 5 years.
Yeah, it's gone past that.
But like the plan is still the plan. You know, we have military intervention in all those countries. You know what I'm saying? And this is why, like there's very few people on the Democrat ticket in terms of like the Democrats running for presidents are talking about this kind of reality. You know what I'm saying? In terms of modern American imperialism and military, potentially unnecessary military intervention. The only one that I know is very vocal about it, although like I wasn't a big fan of her excusing herself from that Trump impeachment vote, was Tulsi Gabbard. She's the only person that has been consistent about stopping regime change wars, and it's been very, very clear. And she's also a U.S. veteran. You know what I'm saying? So it's not somebody that don't know. You know what I'm saying? She's a U.S. veteran that has made it very clear that the U.S. has had a lot of unnecessary, costly in terms of economics and blood interventions in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? And this plan is just
I think this plan helps. And I also would like to say we bring this plan out to the audience and the public to make more clear of what's going on in the Middle East, and maybe have the audience have a more of an understanding when it comes to these stories that come from CNN, Fox News, and how the United States is dealing with these countries as well. So look at the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. Look at the relationships between the United States and all these other countries, man. Libya's in shambles right now, crazy.
Libya's in shambles. Syria's in shambles. All this
crazy.
Now these places again were not perfect places. These places have problems with their leadership. You know what I'm saying? However, things got crazy more destabilized due to American intervention in all 3 of these past presidencies, whether they were red or blue, Democrat, Republican. You know what I'm saying? Like, was more of played more by the rules, or was more like a chaotic. Like, all of them have contributed to this, and it is interesting to note that a couple of these countries were also the S-hole countries. That Trump called. You know what I'm saying? But we have no problem going up in there. You know what I'm saying? So it's very, very interesting.
For whatever reason. All right. So last on the syllabus is the Vladtv being sued by a former employee of his.
Christina Santi.
Christina Santi. And this goes to show you that Vladtv itself is a subsidiary of
Hot in Here
Incorporated company of Vladtv's. You know what I mean? So that tells you the LLC thing, the limited liability protection. You know what I mean?
It shows a lot about shows a lot about how business, the architecture of business, because the average person, for those who don't know, again, Vladtv is a very, very popular but also very controversial media platform where a lot of hip-hop artists and a lot of actually like OG criminals get interviewed. You know, and it's popular, but you know, he also gets accused. Vlad, who's a white man, gets accused for being exploitive and a culture vulture.
Hip-hop police, you know what I mean? Hip-hop vulture culture, the one that helped to cause these ex-OGs to get caught up in the legal system.
And so, you know, when you read over his court papers, I think it's very important for people to be reading court papers whenever they can with cases that are relevant to them or they're curious about, because it just can show how people structure their business and how people structure or how institutions are structured. You know what I'm saying? And in this case, we see that the average person that watches Vladtv is not going to think of it as Hot in Here Incorporated, which that name is kind of questionable to me. You know what I'm saying? But like as a person that recently started the LLCs, I can see how, you know, like companies can kind of roll off of corporations or LLCs within them. So this might be something that was made during the Nelly era. You know what I'm saying? He was like Hot in Here. But at any rate, you know what I'm saying? So Christina Santee, a black woman, is suing Vladtv for
racial discrimination
and sexual misconduct.
Yep.
And this woman worked for them for a while too.
How long?
Like 7 years. From October. So when Vladtv was still in when it was still growing as a major kind of outlet.
In the incubate form.
Yeah, exactly. Like from 2011 to 2018.
Okay.
Yep. Now I guess it started off according to the plaintiff.
Yes.
It started off with a brief unpaid training period. Okay. Right. Then it gradually increased from $150 per week in 2011 to $750 per week by 2015, and then her salary rose up to $63,000 in 2017, which isn't bad. Like that shows a lot about at least the end salary. I don't know about the unpaid training or whatever, like the end salary, that's really not a bad salary. That means that Vlad, at least economically, is having good practice, and also is probably bringing in a decent amount if only one of your employees is making 63 G's a year. Yeah. So, you know, Santee.
So what was the problems with? Yeah, go ahead.
So there are a couple of things that she's accusing of Vladtv and Vlad's wife, who I guess is also a high-ranking employee at Hot in Here Incorporated. And so accusation number one, Vlad told Santee that she should get some butt shots, or whatever it is women are putting into their behinds these days. When Santee talked about how uncomfortable a chair was, right? According to Santee, Vlad told her, as a woman, your only purpose in life is to have children, right? Also, I guess there were situations where Santee did not feel comfortable posting some of the material on Vladtv because she felt it was too stereotypical of black people. And by the way, Christina Santee is a black woman. Yep. So she was not comfortable with these images that she had to share on Vladtv. Okay. I do. And the wife said, according to the plaintiff, the content on the website was not for her, so she should not be offended by it. Right? And so I guess it continues on where I guess a friend of a guest like sexually groped her, and Vlad and his wife decided to not stick up for her and just be like, you need to let this go, right? So, and I guess there's also accusations around unfair treatment when she got pregnant. I guess the plaintiff was pregnant. Okay. You know, she had morning sickness, but her employers, Vlad and his wife, were at her head about it. Meanwhile, I guess there were underperforming people that were getting treated way better when they were sick, right? And she, according to the plaintiff, got fired because I guess Santee asked Vlad's wife if she could work from home for the remainder of the pregnancy because her hours and office temperature made her dizzy, nauseous, and vulnerable to hypertension. And Vlad and his wife denied the request and discharged her as a result, according to the
I didn't know that part.
There's a lot going on.
Okay.
Right, and I'll say this real quick. Wow, we're running a long time already.
Okay.
We got like a minute left. It's crazy. So fine. One, it's interesting how low the story is, because just to know, if you know Vladtv, he blasts everything.
Yeah, he would put everyone else on blast.
Everybody else, everything else gets put on blast. This is interestingly low. When you go on YouTube, not YouTube, when you go on Google, this don't even pop up like that. Save Choke, No Joke, and maybe one or two other people. But actually, what pops up more is Vlad suing Rick Ross.
Yep.
And then two, like, what are your thoughts in terms? All this is alleged, so that needs to be said. What are your thoughts about how this may contribute to the accusations of him being a culture vulture?
I mean, I think this adds a lot more fuel to those type of arguments, man. Because you got a black wife, but at the same time, it seems like you don't have the sympathy to the plight of black Americans. You know what I mean? So with that being like a given, I guess, you know what I mean, like. It seems like, do you really care about the culture, or are you sitting here trying to monetize the culture?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, that's what I'm getting to it. So.
And part of me was wondering, like, because I do know, and Vlad talks about this actually all the time in terms of, like, maybe this is why he talks about it a lot recently with like false accusations, sexual conduct, false accusations. He talks about that a lot on his show, or interviews guests with that question a lot. And I wonder if this is providing some fire for him to ask those kind of questions, because he's been asking these questions while this case has been going on. Right? So that makes you wonder about that.
Go back and watch some videos, man, just to see what's going on, man. See how he's approaching these things, man.
And there are two sides to it, and unfortunately, there are women who exploit the real terrible things that happen to women on a regular basis. But when I was going through some of these details, I don't know. It seems oddly specific.
Yeah.
And I'm not even seeing like a money amount.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not seeing like a money amount to be sued. Like, you know what I'm saying? I guess these complaints are filed under, like, you know, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Family and Medical Leave Act, New York State Human Rights Law, right? So it's not like it's not like it doesn't seem like a money grab. You know what I'm saying? But you know, time will tell. You know, like I hope these things aren't true. You know, Vlad again has a complex legacy and reception in the hip hop community right now. This deserves to be discussed in the hip hop community and not put low in the hip hop community. He doesn't deserve to immediately be, you know, casted off. But at the same time, this deserves discussion the same way all of his other topics deserve discussion as a part of the culture. This is just as much of a part of the culture that needs to be discussed. So, you know, I ask that people continue having even conversation about it. You know what I'm saying? And best of luck to the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because just allow the truth to rock out. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes, sir, man. So with that being said,
yes, y'all been listening to Cypher Scholars, part education, part hip hop, all culture. You've been listening. Oh, excuse me. You can listen every Tuesday from 1:30 to 2. You can catch us online and on Facebook as well. Peace and progress.
Peace.